I was quite literally invited to the biggest fashion week in the world on a global scale to be part of this Australian showcase with top Australian brands that I have looked up to for so long. And I was 1 week into business. And whilst that might look like luck or a fluke or, whatever we want to call it, I believe it was 100% because of the moves I'd made, which were because of the deep belief that I had. If there was 1 ounce of self-doubt, I would have never made those moves or invested in the brand in that way and never would have received that crazy invitation.
This is Inspired Founders, a podcast that helps you find your true north in business and beyond. I'm Priscilla Skippington, a soul-led entrepreneur passionate about sharing the wisdom of world-leading business minds who have walked the path before us. From their toughest challenges to their greatest triumphs, we explore the stories that have shaped their journey and defined their future. Together, we discover the resilience and redemption it truly takes to achieve success, make a lasting impact on the world, and live a life that is truly fulfilling. Hello, and welcome to the Inspired Founders podcast with me, Priscilla Skippington. Today, I have an incredible guest who I'm really excited to share with you. I've been following her journey for quite some time, and I'm really excited to have her as one of our founding guests. Jess Williamson is here with us today. Jess is an award-winning mindset and business mentor. She is a TEDx speaker and author and has been in Forbes and in other major publications. Jess is a serial entrepreneur, having scaled 5 successful businesses in all different industries from product, agency, travel, personal brand, and beyond. What she stands for is really helping business owners grow their businesses without sacrificing their lives. You're deeply passionate about personal growth and helping people create their version of unstoppable success. So welcome, Jess. I'm so grateful to have you here today.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited about this chat.
Amazing. Thank you. So as we spoke about just a moment ago, I would love you to share a bit of your story because you do have an incredible story. You've built 5 incredible businesses. So I'd love to know, who was Jess before the business?
Yeah. So I started my first business when I was 22 years old, working in digital marketing, and I was very, very shy, very introverted. Honestly, I didn't even say hello to most people because I did not want to be seen. I didn't want anyone to know I existed. And sometimes it maybe came across as rude, but I was honestly didn't want to be known. And so that was me. But at the same time, I had like this unshakable self-confidence. I was like, I am capable of some pretty badass things. And so that's always been one of my biggest superpowers. I call it playing Fantasyland. But basically, I was Delulu before it became a TikTok trend. Well before. We didn't even have TikTok back then. So I had this deep self-confidence in what I was capable of, but I didn't want anyone to know it was me. So I kind of set out on my first ever business journey, which was a swimwear brand, going into it with the blind belief that this is going to be a global swimwear brand, like top shelf, top level, big brand. We're not here to play small, just practice, make a local brand and see how it goes. Like, we're going big, we're going global from day one.
Amazing. And so I love that. And I'm a fellow dreamer, so I understand what that fantasy land looks like. And unbelievable at such a young age that you had the confidence to back yourself and really go for it. Yeah. And so where did that land for you?
Yeah. So because I had that belief, we know that our beliefs create our feelings or our emotions, which then create our actions. And so I went 0 to 100 on this. I was like messaging international manufacturers. I probably contacted well over 100 to try and get the ones that I needed, the quantity I needed, ones to say yes, etc. And I had zero experience in fashion. I did a marketing degree at uni, but that's about as practical as a piece of paper. And so I really had no reason or no certifications, no education around doing this, but I had that deep faith. So I went 0 to 100, contacted all these factories, started getting samples, started building an audience online. And that was one of the best things, I think, just coming from marketing and even having that knowledge. Building a community before I even had a product was the key. So I'd built up my social media following quite big. And I also knew that in order to launch a global brand, I need to do a good photo shoot. I can't just DIY it on my iPhone at the beach. So I actually flew to Melbourne because there was a specific photographer that really embodied the vibe that I wanted to go for, and I couldn't find that here in Perth. So I flew to Melbourne, did a really great photo shoot, created some incredible designs, super high quality. And within maybe 6 to 7 months of the idea being 0 to launched was like 7 months.
Amazing.
With products stocked, everything. And for anyone that's in like the fashion product game, one, that's an insanely short amount of time when you do know what you're doing. But I had no clue and I was just making it up as I went. And so that was wildly fast, but I didn't even know that that was fast. I was just like, cool, what's next? What's next? What's next? Take one step at a time. And so basically, I launched online. I was still working full-time in digital marketing. And about a week later, a week into my business journey, I was sitting at my desk and I received this email that said, "You're invited to New York Fashion Week." And I was thinking, this has to be a scam. Who is inviting me to New York Fashion Week 1 week after I've launched online? And so I showed a few of my colleagues who knew that I had the business, because it was a big secret at the time. And I was like, what do you think about this? And we were all like, not quite sure about it. And so I actually contacted some brands that have been part of that Australian showcase in the past, and they said it was legit. It checked out. And so I was quite literally invited to the biggest fashion week in the world on a global scale to be part of this Australian showcase with top Australian brands that I have looked up to for so long. And I was 1 week into business. And whilst that might look like luck or a fluke or, whatever we want to call it, I believe it was 100% because of the moves I'd made, which were because of the deep belief that I had. If there was one ounce of self-doubt or like, oh, maybe this won't work out, I would have never made those moves or invested in the brand in that way, and never would have received that crazy invitation to go to New York Fashion Week. So that's kind of where it started and really showed me the importance of mindset from the start.
Yes. Yep. Yes. Hence why I wanted to invite you into Inspired Founders, because this is what we are all about. It's business and strategy is one thing, but when you combine it with the power of mindset and the internal work, you're unstoppable. You're unstoppable.
Exactly.
And you were that at such a young age, which is just so incredible. And there was probably that element of almost innocence as well, going into it a little bit blind was probably a good thing in a lot of ways, because you didn't have any expectations around it. You were just like, I'm Jess, I can do this. Let's go.
Yeah. And I think that's so powerful. And I think a lot of business owners, because to be honest, I didn't know not everyone thinks that way. I was just like, what do you mean? Just do it. You want to do it? Just give it a go. Like, go and do it. What do you mean? There's a problem? Like, what do you mean you're not ready? What do you mean you don't like? Just do it. And even with New York Fashion Week, I could have said, well, I'm not. Who am I to do it? I don't have any money. I just spent all my money on the first collection, haven't sold many in a week. There were so many reasons that I could have said no, but again, not one of them even crossed my mind. And so it was just my natural way of thinking, to see an opportunity and make it happen. And I love what you said about that, because the success of pretty much my whole business journey has been like 90% mindset. Because while we still need to do things, I don't believe in just like meditating all day because that's not going to help you at all either. But you still need to take action. But you don't need to find the right way to do it. I saw a challenge. Okay, I need to communicate my designs to my manufacturer. I didn't go and get a fashion degree and then wait until I was, doing that. I didn't even do proper patterns. Like, so basically in fashion, you got to draw it on a piece of paper, like create it on your computer for the manufacturer to understand what you need. I was like, no, I'm not doing it that way. I created a spreadsheet. I was like, let me communicate it in the easiest way. I hand drew some pictures because I was like, I'm not wasting my time learning CAD drawings and all this crazy stuff on the computer. So
Yeah.
drew it by hand, wrote 2 centimeters here, 5 centimeters there, grabbed reference images. And when you see an end goal and you're like, what is the most direct route for me to get there? You make up the middle part. It doesn't
Yeah.
even matter. And I think that's where people get so stuck in business, no matter what kind of business you're running. They keep looking for the right way. They want someone to tell them the 10-step process. And I'm like, I can give you a 10-step process. It ain't going to work the same.
Yeah.
It is not going to. So like, we're
Yep.
not doing the 10 steps because once
Yep.
you work on your mindset, you'll find a way.
That's right. Exactly. I absolutely love what you said there. And now going more into, you're more in the mentoring coaching space
Yeah.
now. I think that's so important that you said that as well, because people who want to come and work with you, they're probably thinking, oh, she's going to give me a 10 step, but it's not that. It's so personalized and it's so
Yeah.
unique to your own journey and who you
Exactly.
are as a
Yeah.
person.
Yeah, I of course like go into like I teach strategy that well. I'm like obsessed with the human mind from your own perspective, but like consumer psychology level. But even with that, I find that when I work with strategies with my clients, they're like, "Oh, is that it? It must be too easy. That feels too easy." And then what we do as human beings is we overcomplicate it. We create a level of overwhelm. We overthink things. We make things so much more complicated than they need to be. Like even just choosing a name for something to sell. Don't spend time on it. Name it whatever the hell you want to name it and move on with your life. So the key is don't overcomplicate it. Take action. Any action is better than no action, and you'll figure it out from there.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Yes, yes. We don't always have to know how something's going to play out. It
Yeah.
just know that it will. As long as you continually show up and take the action, whatever that may be, it will all fall into place. Yeah, absolutely. So, you've gone to New York Fashion Week, you've done this incredible thing 1 week into business. What did that then spark for you? What was the pivot moment to go, oh, I can do this again. I can create another business. Kind of what was the next point?
Yeah, so I was still working at my full-time job for like the whole first year, growing and scaling that globally. And then I started to see people running influencer trips. So big brands would take influencers on trips to, let's say, the Maldives, and they would promote a new product, particularly like beauty brands did this well.
Mm,
But I was like, I don't have $500,000 to fund this marketing activity. So I saw an opportunity where no one was doing it and still no one's actually doing this. So if you want to jump on the idea, go for it. But basically, because I've stopped doing it now, but basically I brought together all the best influencers because I'd worked with hundreds worldwide. Some were great, some were not so great. So I was like, I'll bring together my expertise on who is great to work with. And then I'll sell it like a marketing agency, basically, packages to brands where they could get either content, they could get promo from the influencers. We worked with travel brands. And so there were sponsors, people buying packages all involved. Influencers got all expenses paid and got paid to come along. And the brands got to do this kind of thing in an accessible way. So I was kind of bridging the gap between two worlds that was not accessible before. So I saw that opportunity, one for my brand, but two, as entrepreneurs, I think we just see things that people don't see yet. And we're like, great, that looks easy. I'll do that. I love travel. I love doing that. So I launched full speed into that, did trips all over the world. And yeah, that was quite full on actually. It sounds fun, but it's was not the most fun sometimes. Like some of the trips were really, really great, but sometimes I had some American influencers and they would complain that the boat was too slow and they refused to go back. We were in Fiji, refused to go back to the main island on the boat because it took an hour and they were refusing. So, Jess, you have to book me a helicopter. I'm not doing that. Like just entitled stuff. And it gave me a lot of anxiety because I'm like, I'm trying to make everyone happy here. The brands, the hotels, the influencers, they're refusing. It's a nightmare. And at the time, I hadn't done as much work on myself. So I was very timid, very shy, very people pleasing. And it caused me so much anxiety. It was quite a nightmare. But it's not to say it's always bad or all influencers bad because I had some really amazing ones too. But it just caused me a lot more anxiety than I needed. And so 2020 came around, that just paused. And I was like, I don't really need to pick that business back up. And then off the back of that, I started an events photo shoot venue where I had my offices and ran events and photo shoots there. Plus, I ended up teaching myself photography so I could do more photo shoots more regularly. So I actually, just for a creative outlet, was doing content creation for brands. And on top of all of that, by 2019, I was doing my mentoring as well. So within the span of 3 years, scaled, and had all 5 businesses by 2019, which was quite hectic, to be honest, quite a lot.
Yes, it would have been.
Yeah.
Wow. High achiever, I would say.
Yeah. I'm always very fast as well. Like even as a child, I used to run. I do think I have some ADHD, but I haven't bothered to get checked because I'm like, what's the point? But I used to run everywhere because walking was too slow. So this is like an insight into my brain. But I ran a little bit too fast and I hit burnout pretty badly. One, because a lot of my business decisions were fueled by anxiety and scarcity
Yeah.
of someone's going to beat me to it. And also, I was not looking after my health at all. That was the first thing to go. I wasn't eating properly, wasn't exercising, wasn't looking after myself. All I did was wake up and work from anxiousness. So I hit like rock bottom, burnout, anxiousness, all of it
Yeah.
came to a head in about 2019, 2020.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was going to be my next question,
Yeah.
going so fast in a very short amount of time, creating so
Mhm.
much, it usually only ends one way.
Yeah.
And burnout is usually how it happens. And
Yeah.
through, as hard as burnout is when you hit it, there's also something magical that comes on the other side of it, from my experience anyway.
Yeah.
And so was this the pivot moment that you think you needed? You needed that burnout, that breakdown moment to really kind of reevaluate where you were at and what you were doing to create your
Yeah.
next phase?
Yeah, it definitely took that rock bottom moment where I was like, I can't survive. Like, I actually don't know how I'm going to survive. Um, But upon looking back, in all honesty, most of the businesses were optimized. Like my swimwear brand, by about the 4th year in, I was spending maybe 2 hours a day max just overseeing it. Same with the venue. It was all systemized. My VAs ran the whole thing. I just had to jump in when problems arose, and I was doing the marketing for it. But really, they didn't need much time or energy from me. I honestly believe most of my burnout was created internally by myself. I actually look back and I believe that I could handle all of that at once now, but also I don't want to. It's not my purpose to run a venue, and so I've gotten really clear on what those things are, but I've also worked on my internal world around feeling grounded, around feeling rock solid in who I am, around understanding what triggers me, what puts me over the edge, what causes scarcity, and being able to be rock solid in those things. Because regardless if we're running one business or we're running 5, those things that were driving me to have anxiety and burnout then were the things that I needed to sort out, not the 5 businesses. So it was that idea of someone's going to beat me to it. I need to go fast. And then therefore I never allowed myself to rest. Therefore I never gave myself the break. I was creating things that needed to be harder or heavier, or I needed to always do more because I didn't feel enough. And so there were so many of these beliefs playing out that ended me up there, not so much the actual thing.
Yes. Yeah, that makes total sense. Again, I can relate to that.
Yeah.
And I think so many people can. It's the internal battle, it's the mindset battle, it's the stuff we kind of push under the rug for as long as we can and go, we're fine, we're super people, we can do this.
Yeah.
Until we can't. So that's really powerful. And I think there's a lot of lessons in that.
Yeah.
And so you've just released a book. How did that come about? When did you start working on that?
So I actually had the idea to do a book about 2020, but I was like, well, I'm not a writer. So let me just go with the more easy option, which was my podcast, which I launched in 2020 instead, because I just wanted a space where I could impact people in a bigger way. And I knew that that had to be long form content.
Yeah.
I'm so much better at long form. Like I can sit down and deliver an hour-long keynote, but like try and tell me to do a 30-second reel. I'm like, but how can I give you all of that? How can I give you all the context? I don't know. It's maybe it's like my millennial brain that's like, what? How do I do short form? I don't know. But so I did my podcast. So then when I just kind of parked the idea for the book. Actually, the first idea that I had for my book was going to be interviewing all the incredible people that I'd crossed paths with. Like through my journey, I had mentors who were celebrities. I'd worked with influencers who are now best friends with like Hailey Bieber. And like I'd worked with so many of these incredible people. And I thought, I want to share their message. So I actually did it on the podcast instead. But then a few more years passed by and I thought it feels like the right time to do a book now. And over that time, I had built up, so many frameworks and so many lessons and so many ways that I had impacted my clients over that time. And so I thought I want to put it all into a book to teach people how to create their own unstoppable success as well. So that was kind of the idea. And it took about 2 years to pull the book together, even though I had most of the content somewhere, whether it was on my podcast, in my lessons, keynotes, notes, but it still takes a long time.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you've got other things going on as well.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I haven't gotten to writing a book yet, but I have spoken to people who have done it. And yeah, it can be a journey pulling it all together. And then if you haven't written a book book before, it can be a little bit challenging, I think, to put it all into chapters and, well, how am I going to do the transition between that chapter and that chapter? And yeah, I've heard it could be quite a mission. So congratulations on making it happen.
Thank you.
And I just saw you were incredible. You've gone nationally. You've done a bit of a tour to launch it.
Yeah.
How was that?
I don't do things small. People that know me are like, well, I could do like a book launch here in Perth, but like, why not do it all across the country? So I was like, yeah, I'm going to do it.
Yeah,
So I just went all across the country, celebrating not just my book, but like female entrepreneurs. And it was so awesome. It was just a night that I wanted to just celebrate, leave people with some inspiring messages. Honestly, some people went away from that and they've launched a whole ass business in the last 2 weeks from that they were sitting on for years. I've had messages from people saying, oh my gosh, I'd been in a rut for like the past year, and just even reading some of your book so far has like pulled me out of that. And that's really what I wanted to create, was something that lights the fire within you to unlock your own power. Like I'm not here, there are strategies in the book as well. Like there is biz strategy in there as well, but most of it is going deep into your psyche to like unlock some powerful shit. Because when you become unstoppable, I don't care what the hell you're trying to do. It's like you're unstoppable. So of course it's going to happen.
Yes, absolutely. I love that so much. And it's that inspiring aspect, hence inspired founders. It is that keeping someone going, keeping someone on that trajectory, on that path when, their limits pop in, when their disbelief pops in, and keeping them going. And that I can't wait to read the book. I have to read it. I'm so excited. And so great that you've already had messages of people who are loving it and taking action on it. That's so incredible
Yeah.
to hear.
It was so surreal. And I really structured the book, one, to be easy to read. One girl read it on a flight back from Queensland to Melbourne, which I'm assuming is like a 2-hour flight. She read the whole book. So I wanted it to be really easy to read and digest. One, because I have so many books that are like half read. I get bored of them and they're too long and dry. And it's just like, oh, so boring. So I made it really easy to read, but I also made it actionable. I have like action steps, journaling prompts, things to think about in every single section. So it's not just like, oh, well, that was inspiring. That was a nice book. I feel good for like 5 minutes and then like get back to it. It's like actually deep soul discovery. And I was like, how do I make this even one step further? So I actually put together all the actions and more into like a workbook that people can download as a PDF. And some people have been printing it out and they're like, oops, I didn't realize it was 80 pages long. And I was like, yeah, I give you everything. I give you everything. You might need to buy some more printer toner, but it's all there so that people can actually do something about it as well.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I didn't know you
Yeah.
did the printout with it. That's
Yeah.
what an added bonus. And like you said, someone could really take that and run with it, which is
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me, what are your grand plans now? Obviously, you've got a number of groups, you've got some
Mm,
mentoring happening, you've got your
yeah.
book. What's a grand vision for Jess now?
Yeah. So I am really wanting to impact female entrepreneurs in a bigger way. So I've gone from not wanting anyone to know I existed to building a personal brand online and, through my events and things. But I'm wanting to go like way bigger,
Big.
where it's like everyone has been impacted by me in some way. If they're a female entrepreneur, that's like my grand vision because I know the work that I do. And that's kind of why I wrote my book as well, because I wanted it to be accessible. Books are really cheap and it's accessible. People can buy it on Amazon or any bookstore they go to. And so that's my vision for my next step is really stepping into more of that like public figure era. Actually, about a year ago, I came back from my European holiday feeling a little bit lost. When you go on travel, it's like it shines a light on things. And I felt a bit lost. Like I'd created so much incredible success. I was coaching my amazing clients through their mindset and their biz, but I was like, oh, something is missing. And I actually stopped playing Fantasyland. So I came back, I was like, right, I am going to get a publisher for my book. I'm going to enter my public figure era. I'm going to do my TEDx talk. All of those things were intentions 1 year ago. And if anyone goes on my Instagram right now, like I have did a whole documentary about my journey. Like I've rented out a whole movie cinema and promoted, like shared it with my incredible community. I've done my TEDx talk. I got myself a publisher. And this is really the ethos of creating unstoppable success. Like when you have a clear vision, you go out and do it.
Mm.
But that's really what's next for me. I want to impact people in a bigger way. So I'm going to be doing a lot more in-person events and hopefully come over to Queensland and we can hang out.
Yes.
But that's really where I'm at with my journey and leaving the world with any impact that I can leave it with.
I love that. I love that. And that's the mission of Inspired Founders is we want
Yeah.
to leave an impact. We really want to make an impact in other people's lives and in humanity
Yeah.
globally is
Love that.
yeah, that's what we want to do. So, lastly, can I ask what are the three things, like if you give our audience three things that continue to inspire you? Have they been things that you've heard? Are they mantras that you tell yourself? Is it a morning routine? What keeps you inspired on a daily basis?
Yeah. Okay. Three things. So, one is this has always been my motto. It actually was like my Facebook status back in 2011 when I was like 18 years old and it popped up as a memory. But the motto is where there's a will, there's always a way. Just watch me. And I think that is kind of the essence of my whole journey. It's like, oh, I don't have a fashion degree. Well, just watch me. I'm going to find the way. And so that is something to really keep in mind whenever you face any challenge. It's like there's always a way. It just depends how willing we are to make the way, right? So that's definitely a mantra that I live by. The second thing that I would say that keeps me inspired, keeps me motivated is honestly in those moments where you're like, oh, no one's buying from me. Things feel hard. Like we all have those moments. We're not immune to them, but it's how quickly we move through it. We don't want to sit in it. So the most powerful thing, it sounds so simple, but it's practicing gratitude for the thing that you feel scarcity in. So people often do gratitude around, I'm grateful for my house, I'm grateful for my cat, whatever. But it's like, your cat's not triggering you on the daily. Maybe it is, maybe it's a savage cat, but it's like, that's not a problem right now. So I like to practice gratitude if I'm like, oh, no one's buying. Where can I be more grateful for the clients that are buying? If you're got scarcity around, oh, I have no money. Where can you be more grateful for the money that is coming in? And I find that is really powerful because then in an instant, you've shifted out of that. And it was really just your mind, your subconscious saying, oh, maybe this is a challenge. So that's really, really powerful. And the last thing is making sure that I have balance. And I know that it's like this, what is the word? I go on blank on the word, elusive. It's like this elusive concept. Balance, whatever. I've got balance. I did my morning routine. But really what I've learned through my journey the hard way is that balance is actually the key to your success. Because if we're out there sacrificing our life, if we're sacrificing our fun, if we're sacrificing time with loved ones, what it does on a psychological level is it actually tells your subconscious that success or your business is unsafe for you. It shows your business that, okay, if we are creating success, our health is suffering, we might die. If we're creating success and hustling in our business, well, we're sacrificing our loved ones, which is something we deeply care about. And then what we tend to face is self-sabotage. We find ourselves procrastinating. We find ourselves avoiding, finding all these challenges and resistance because we haven't taken care of the things that we should be looking at as well. And so that's actually been the key to my success. Whenever I go to the beach, money drops in. It's not magic. I have systems for that, but it's like I take time out and I make my most money when I'm traveling, when I'm having fun, when I'm looking after myself. And so that's been the biggest key to, I call it building my business for life, because we're not building a business for just today. It's for life.
Yeah. I love that so much. I can really resonate with that. It's when you take the time out, when you're living life, when you're doing the things that bring you most joy, when you're so happy, that's when the magic happens. I like to call it magic, whatever anyone else calls it, because it's so true. It's so true. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I have really loved listening to your journey and all the wisdom you have. And I'm so excited for everything that you're going to create. You are unstoppable.
Yeah, thank you.
And you've done it in such a short amount of time. And now you also, with everything you're doing, and now that you've done the soul work, you have so much wisdom to share. So I'm so excited to continue watching you. And I hope you get to Brisbane sometime so we can meet as well.
Absolutely. I will be back. Brisbane's like a vacation. As soon as I got there on my tour, I'd been to Melbourne, and then Sydney was really city vibes raining. And then I got to Brisbane and I was like, I feel like I'm on a holiday. The sun was out. It was on a rooftop. It was the best. Love Queensland.
Beautiful. Yeah, Brisbane is beautiful. Feel very lucky to live here.
Yeah.
And you are off overseas.
I'm off in about a week. I'm going to run my first retreat in Greece, which I am so excited about. Obviously, in the past, I used to run my influencer trips, which was fun, but it didn't have the purpose element. Like, I wasn't there changing lives. So we're creating content and I love that. But I love running retreats, but I went to Greece last year and I was like, have to do it here. There's nowhere else. We just have to. So I'm going. We've got an incredible group of women coming from all over the world to come and hang out in Greece for a week. So
how incredible. That's going to be amazing. I can't wait to see photos. I'm going to be slightly jealous, I'm sure, but but it's going to be amazing. When I heard you were going to Greece, I was like, oh my goodness, and to run a retreat there. How amazing. I mean, that is a dream, really.
Yeah, well, stay tuned.
Yes.
BTS.
Yes.
Thank you so much for having me on. It's been so good to connect and hopefully hang out sometime in person.
Thank you so much for tuning into this inspirational story. Lucky for you, the inspo doesn't stop here. We have an Inspired Founders Facebook community, a space created just for you to learn, listen, and ask questions from our inspired founders themselves. This unique community is designed to uplift and motivate you to take actions on your own stories and dreams. You'll find the link within our show notes. We can't wait to see you in there.
This is a Guide Your Light network production, creating podcasts with purpose.